Hi everybody, today we're going to be learning some basics of music theory. I would like to use the popular music theory book from the London College of Music as the textbook. Okay, let's begin. As we all know that music is written on 5 lines called the staff lines. And there can only be 2 kinds of notes that can be written on these staff lines. One is a line note and the other is a space note. A line note looks like this, and a space note looks like this. Okay, the next thing that we're going to be learning is called the clef sign. Okay, and there are 2 kinds of clef. For this part of the exam, there are only 2 kinds of clef that we're going to learn. One is the treble clef, and the other is the bass clef. Now, what is a clef sign? A clef sign tells us the range of notes. Now, when you look at a piano keyboard, you would see there are 88 keys on the piano. Some notes are low and some notes are high. Now, what is a clef sign? A clef sign tells you the range of notes. The notes on the treble clef go from the middle C to the right side of the piano. And the notes on the bass clef go from the middle C to the left side of the piano. That is, the notes on the treble clef basically go from the middle C, it moves higher in pitch. And on the bass clef, from the middle C, it goes lower in pitch. And next, we're going to be learning about the ledger line notes. I'll tell you why we need these ledger line notes. Sometimes we find that these 5 lines are not enough to write the notes that we want. It goes beyond these 5 lines. And when notes go beyond these 5 lines, we'll use a small line. And these lines are called as ledger lines. And when these notes are written there on the ledger lines, we call this as a ledger line note. Okay, the next thing that we're going to learn is called the musical alphabets. The musical alphabets are A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Now, why do we need musical alphabets? There are so many pitches in music, and without naming these pitches, it would be very hard to identify these pitches. And that's why we give them a name, which are the musical alphabets, that is A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Okay, what you're looking at here is called the grand staff. I want you to notice the things that we've already learned. First, the treble clef, the bass clef, the musical alphabets, the ledger line. I want you to take a moment and write this down in a musical manuscript. A manuscript is basically a blank 5-line note where you can write these down. Okay, take a moment and I want you to write this down, and I'll also give you a link to the musical manuscript. If you don't have a manuscript, I'll give you the link so you can take a print and write this down for yourself. Next, I'm going to give you a mnemonic to learn to remember the 5-line notes written on the treble clef and the bass clef. Okay, as I told you already, there are only 2 kinds of notes, a line note and a space note. The line notes on the treble clef are E, G, B, D, F. Now, the easier way to remember this is every good boy does fine. And the space notes of the treble clef are F, A, C, E. And that makes the word face. The line notes of the bass clef are G, B, D, F, A. And this can be remembered as good boy does fine always. Okay, the next is space notes of the bass clef are A, C, E, G. That could be all cows eat grass. Now that's the easiest way to learn the line notes and the space notes of the treble clef and the bass clef. Okay, the next thing we're going to be learning is the sharp sign. A sharp sign looks like a hash. Now this sign is written just next to a musical alphabet like A sharp, C sharp, D sharp, F sharp or G sharp. Now let's learn why do we need a sharp sign. Sharp signs are basically naming these black keys on the piano. The black keys on the piano do not have an identity of their own. Like for example, the white keys on the piano has an identity of their own. They are called as C or D or G or A or anything. But not so with the black keys of the piano. The black keys on the piano have a borrowed name and a borrowed identity. That is, when you see a black key just next to the C, that is towards the right side of C, then we call it a C sharp. Imagine a black key next to D, that is to the right side of the note D, then we call it a D sharp. So we see that these black keys borrow a name from the white keys that are next to them. Now let's learn how to write these sharp signs in a musical alphabet or on the staff lines. On the staff lines, you always write the sharp first and then you write the note. Like in this example, you see a sharp and then an F note, and that tells us it's an F sharp note. Imagine if you have to write it as a musical alphabet. You write the alphabet first, you write F, and then you write a sharp. Hence, it's F sharp. The next thing we're going to learn is the key signature. If a piece of music always uses a F sharp note rather than a F note, instead of writing the sharp every time the note occurs, we use a sign. We use a sharp at the beginning of the piece just next to the treble clef or the bass clef. Now let's learn something about how do we write a note on the staff line. There are two parts to a note when we write. One is the note head, the other is the stem. Have a look at this. This is a note head and this is a stem. Stems sometimes are pointed downwards and sometimes upwards. We will learn some rules on how to write this in the further lessons. Now in this next section, we'll be learning something about musical terms. Now, the terminology in music sometimes is varied. A popular musician would use a certain word and a traditional musician would use a certain word. Okay, like example, a whole note is traditionally called semibreve. A half note is called minim. Quarter note is called crotchet. A whole step is called a whole tone. A half step is called a semitone. Staff is called stave. Measures are called bars. Keynote is called a tonic. And fofo is written as C, and that tells us it's a common time. Ledger line, that is L-E-G-E-R, is called a ledger line, L-E-D-G-E-R. A treble clef is also called as G clef. A bass clef is also called as F clef. And now here we end the first section of Guide to Music Notations. In the next video, we'll be learning scales and keys, section 1 of preliminary grade popular music theory from London College of Music. If you like this lesson, give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.